while journeying through this endless space and conducting the dance of life, which is me, sometimes it can be nice to take a look at a certain question, certain subject matter, and look at that one question in light of the general state of affairs. So that's what I wanted to do now. I haven't really decided yet what this question should be, but I want it to be some kind of question that most other people can relate to. And the first idea that popped into my mind was the question of information, and what this is. That is a theme which has been very well traveled in many of my previous talks, although it has to be said that I haven't made all that many videos under these splendid conditions. So while maybe I feel somewhat fed up talking about it, that may not be the case for others. And in any case, why should I be fed up talking about it? If I have just been repeating myself, then simply that means I need to find a renewal. So maybe information is a good topic to kick it off. I mean, after all, this is information, and we're living in an information society, and how we deal with information is a pretty big deal. So it seems like information is one of those questions which really deserves to be looked at very deeply and given a thorough examination. So you could say that in a sense, I've been working for many years on my own theory of information. So maybe I'll kind of present it like that. Present this as a sort of alternative theory of information. The theory of information, which I've been working on for many years, I may call it the situational theory of information. Another way of expressing it is to view it as information understood as patterns of events in space. So this is one way of understanding information, and I'm quite aware that it's quite different from many of the traditional approaches. I mean, I have gone into the encyclopedias and many other places to read about information theory, and I don't think I've ever read or heard anywhere this expression, situational information, or information as patterns of events in space. But this is the way which seems most natural for me personally to view this, after having given it some thought. There is some similarity between the perspective that I'm operating from here and the perspective of the famous philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, who in his last words, which was philosophical investigations, he made this observation that the meaning of the word is in its use. And he here described various kinds of language games, and that the meaning which the different words have depends on what language game they are a part of. So they fulfill a certain role depending on how they are being used. Now this perspective makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's a very sensible and rational, you could even say a very accurate view of word meaning. And having observed this closely, it's very clear that there is an incredible spectrum of different meanings which is given to every single word in our language, depending on when it is used, who is using it, and for what reasons. So a language game can here be seen as a certain kind of pattern of events taking place in space, where everything that people do, all kinds of activities, and the places where they do them, and the sequence they are done, the ways they're being done. All of this is one concurrent totality of events. And every time any word is being uttered or read or written or heard or thought about, then that moment when this word is being heard or read or spoken or written or thought about, that is a moment of real experience which is taking place in the same world where all of the other events are taking place at the same time. So therefore, the meaning of that word is a total result of all of these things which are happening at the place where the word is being channeled through. So I am extending this to everything that relates to information. As far as I can tell, any kind of information, whether it's a number, whether it's a symbol, a sign, a kind of color, a kind of texture, a kind of gesture, everything we call information, also music, this is always something which finds its meaning in space, in a real event, and with living beings being present. Therefore, we can give also another definition of information to supply the ones offered so far. Information is a pattern of events in space being observed by a living mind. If there was no living mind to observe it, it would not be information in the way it is. A word is a word when heard. When not heard, it's not that kind of a word. It is something very different when it's not heard. A word which is spoken into the room, shouted into the room, and the people hear it, and they're taking it in. That is a very different state of affairs from a word which is hidden in a book, which is hidden in a box, which is hidden in a basement, and where not a single living being on the planet is reading that book. Information obviously has a great deal of practical applications, as do everything with words. Words also have many practical applications. Words have real consequences. What you say matters. When you have information which is being programmed into machines, and where the machines, according to certain rules which are pre-established, do various sequences of actions, then this is yet another example of information finding its meaning as a pattern of events in space. And since we as human beings are the makers of these machines, and since we are also the protectors of the machines and the users of the machines, then this meaning of the activity of the machines is ultimately the meaning which we experience. And once again we see that the meaning of information is closely tied to the meaning given to it by a living mind in the world where the information is being active. Now, the forms that information can take are, of course, very rich. Just the patterns that we see in our surroundings, when we see a pattern of light and we associate that with the word tree, this is also an information. The exact extendedness of all of the trees that you can see around here, just the form of their branches, the colors that shine out into the world, and the patterns between the trees. This is information seen as a pattern by a living mind.